My name is Ed Nardi, Chair of the Natural Resources Commission, and I am calling this public meeting to order at 7 p.m. Tonight's NRC meeting will be a hybrid in-person and Zoom meeting. We have a microphone set up on the commission table and plans to be projected through the TV monitor. If you are presenting via Zoom, please turn on your audio and microphone when it is time for you to speak. Following the presentation by the petitioner and questions from the commission, members of the public will have the opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment. Please identify yourself with name and address for the record. You can also raise your hand from your phone by dialing *9 and use *6 to unmute. All video screens will be turned off with the exception of the commissioners, Delia, and the current petitioner. Once the commission has acted on an application, the petitioner is free to leave the meeting. This meeting is being recorded. In the event of any technical difficulties, all matters on the agenda that have not been heard will automatically be continued to the April 5th NRC meeting. At this time, I would ask the commissioners to introduce themselves. Bill?
Bill Kermeza.
Sarah?
Sarah Bloomwood.
And Gary.
Gary Kleiman.
All right, thank you, guys. I think we first order business this evening, approved meeting minutes from December 7th, 2022 and December 21st, 2022. I had one minor typo on the 21st set of minutes. Other than that, I had no comment.
Nick had something on each one, so.
Oh, Nick had a
He
couple of,
already emailed me, and I
Just,
just,
I sent you an email, I don't know if you've seen it yet, I sent you one on the 24th.
Okay.
just minor, non-material.
But I wasn't here for the 7th, so I can't.
Okay, all right, so we'll hold you off on that vote. Bill, any comment?
No.
Okay, Gary?
Yeah, Sue Felsham's name, bottom of page 5 on the 21st.
I got that one. Same as me.
Yeah.
Nice set of minutes, Karen. All right, so if I could have, while we break it up separately, Bill, if you want to give us a motion for those minutes?
Sure. I move that we approve the minutes as amended for December 7th, 2022.
Second?
All right, we'll take the vote. And Sarah, you're going to abstain from this one, right?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Bill?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
And I am an aye as well.
And I move that we approve the minutes as amended for December 21st.
Second?
And the vote, Bill?
I also was not attending the meeting.
Oh, okay, we'll go to Sarah.
I'm.
All right, Gary?
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. All right. Any commissioner comments this evening? Bill?
No.
Okay, not seeing any. We'll move to the director's update.
Just two things. The first is we had the Warner's Pond community meeting on March 2nd. It was very well attended. There were about 140 people there in person and on Zoom. Our consultants gave an overview of the backgrounds and what the conceptual alternatives are at this stage with the dam removal or a limited dredging to maintain sediment within the pond because of the prohibitively high costs associated with the original proposal, which was to dredge a portion of the pond. We got a lot of good feedback at the meeting. I think all three of
All three of us heard it?
Yeah, so yeah, right. So if you heard it firsthand, I think there was, strong support for both that we heard at the meeting. I would say more people spoke favorably of dam removal, but there were people who spoke, very, strongly for the direction of keeping the dam. So the next steps are we have the survey that was distributed a couple of weeks ago. Close of business today. The survey, we've taken what has been submitted to date and have 251 respondents, which is great.
Yeah.
And we have exported that data out and we'll start analyzing that. The survey remains open if people want to continue to contribute. But what will be analyzed in the consultants' alternatives analysis will be what we've received to date. So they're preparing the conceptual, sort of advancing both those designs into a conceptual level design phase. And then they'll incorporate all of the survey data that has been received. And we'll have a second community meeting sometime in the spring. As you know, we've been sort of pushing to have this happen before town meeting so that we could keep this going. But as you heard at the meeting, there's not a need to rush this, and so we thought we should just sort of do more of a slow roll with this.
That makes sense.
So probably like a May meeting, after town meeting. And then, with the idea that we continue to have outreach with the public, have a preferred alternative and start advancing designs towards that, with the ultimate goal of having this be, an article that gets put on the warrant until 2024 town meeting for approval.
That sounds great. Question, for the proposed May meeting. Would the consultant also develop a further perhaps estimate of cost for either one, since that kind of waylaid the last one, the larger dredging project? So
Right. So they will prepare an opinion of probable cost at the
Yeah.
conceptual level stage.
Yeah.
I will say that when we were doing the dredging feasibility in 2018, they prepared an opinion of probable cost then, which was then updated in 2022, right before we went out to bid. And I think all bids in COVID were kind of crazy.
yeah,
But
yeah.
there at that August 2022, the week before we went out to bid, it was $3 million.
Yeah.
And the one bid came back at 9.
Yeah.
So we think it's probably more reasonable. It would have been 6,
Yeah.
but
Wasn't the issue there, and I don't know, I was just curious that taking the sediment, wasn't it limited to moving it to the prison site? Wasn't there some limiting of the
was
truck
a
movement
very
that really
limiting-
drove that?
very limiting because they could only accept, 3 trucks a day.
Yeah,
So that really, really drove up the cost
Yeah.
substantially. And that probably wasn't taken into account with the opinion of probable cost, because that came back from the prison pretty late. And then-
Do you think timing was also a factor? Do you think timing was also a factor, and that if you were to rebid the same job today, do you anticipate it would still be $9 million?
I think it would be, I've talked with another contractor who had intended to bid, but had a family emergency, somebody that we've worked with before. And his feeling that it was more in the $6 million
Mhm.
range, but that's still twice
Yeah.
more than twice the available monies that we have allocated. And so that's a lot of money.
yeah, sure.
And both, under conceptual, both of these options that we're looking at are, well under that. So we will have that
And
conceptual
do you
level.
think for the next public meeting, there'll be some visuals of what it could look like either way? Because I think that's what we need.
Yes, so we are having 5 at-grade renderings prepared. And 2 of them will be looking at the dam, or 3 will look at the dam removal from Giroux, Comav, and Pond Street. And then 2 will look at the modified dredging, Pond Street and Comav. Yeah. And, I'm sorry, it's 2 people in here. Oh, here's Nick. The only other thing that I have on my update for you is the Concord cleanup. You probably saw the sign up outside here, so March 25th through April 2nd. Public Works crews will pick up bags for the 2 weeks before Patriots Day, so I'm hoping again for good participation. It's good, long-standing tradition.
Yeah, well, thank you for doing that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so move to the continuances. We have 2 moving to April 5th. Bill, you want to take that motion?
Sure, I move that we continue to April 5th without discussion. 2 notices of intent. One at 794 Elm Street, DEP file 1371630. And the second one at 300 Ministerial Drive, DEP file 1371628.
Second,
All right, I'll take the vote. Bill?
Aye.
Sarah?
aye.
Gary?
I don't know if you
Nick,
noticed, Nick is here.
Yeah, hey, Nick, glad you could join us.
Hi, Nick Pappas. Aye.
Thank you, Nick. All right, so we'll move on to our first continuance we heard this evening, which is a notice of intent, 59 Walton Street, DEP file 137-1618. Good evening, Rich.
Good evening.
All right.
Still gonna call for the pictures.
Yep.
So, being Richard Harrington Associate Engineer for the project. On Zoom is Mark Lionetta, who's intended to be the contractor on the property, and also Deb Howe, who's our landscape architect. In the audience behind me is Chris Hill and Edie Hill and Frank Winmeyer, are the applicants and the owners of the property, respectively. I just want to thank the commission for their patience. We're at the finish line here and looking to proceed with next week's events with the planning board recommendation and then with the zoning board of appeals for relief for the parking, which has allowed us to navigate our way through and to try to provide the best product possible for the aspects and interests of this commission. We are on our fifth revision, and we left this table before with the intent of holding a 25-foot setback from your wetlands. What has occurred is the reason why we're actually here is because of the riverfront area. It's a redevelopment. There's no work within the 100-foot buffer zone as far as redevelopment. We're in the outer 100 of the of Millbrook, the outer riparian. So currently, right now on this picture, you'll see at the top of the page is a dark strip. That's the bituminous swale that's going to be removed per the request of staff and converted to a riprap swale. That's something of a housekeeping item. It's run off from offsite centering our property, and so we've agreed to do that one aspect. The other aspect was trying to improve the setback and remove some pavement from within the inner riparian of Millbrook. And so what we're able to do is provide a 25-foot setback from the edge of the river and remove all that pavement that's in that dotted area and keep that same outer edge of the fingernail, if you will, towards the wetlands. So that's our new edge of defined limit of work associated with engineering and redevelopment activity. The stone trench is being invited forward to the new edge of pavement, which I reviewed with Delia, and she recommended that it's best to pull that forward. And what we're doing is then turning that remaining area into a bioretention area. So what you're going to find is an improvement on three aspects, in the third being the robust planting plan that Deb Howe is available to talk about if needed. But on the right-hand side, we shopped around holding and removing more pavement, but the consensus with the planning board member and the zoning board of appeals was that it was just too tight coming around the corner there. So by holding 20-foot minimum off the edge of wetlands and 25 feet off Millbrook, we're providing a better circular turning area. And we invited space number 18 from the back left corner down to the right side so that we've improved snow storage also on the pavement and more to the left, further at the furthest point away from the edge of Millbrook. So we've provided, this is the final footprint that we're seeking approval here to then get relief from the next week from the Board of Appeals. And that's the overview of the three items that we're looking to do. And we went through your comments and the narratives and updating the operation and maintenance. We are going to provide additional recharge for the sump basin from the sump pumps in the basement. Those will be put into its own separate dry well, and we'll have a structure right outside the back. And we'll clean up that whole back area also with the plantings that Deb has on her plan also. We did look at your request about snow storage and snow disposal and the guidelines that the Department of Environmental Protection has. As you know, where the pavement locations are exempt from the 25-foot setback and then within the 50. By improving the area of snow storage on the pavement and the bioretention area, we're allowing more snow water to melt and recharge onto the property as opposed to trucking it off-site. We believe we meet that guideline, which is where under normal conditions, it's best to not fill or place snow within the wetlands. And having it, we will have snow on the shoulders of the left and right side property lines that are outside the 50-foot buffer zone, but all in all, we're here for the riverfront area. And so it's a net improvement, and we're inviting the existing snow stockpiles on the property further from the edge of Millbrook. So that was one criteria, and to the extent that it does get removed, we'll follow those guidelines that if it is removed offsite, it will be kept further than the 50-foot request from those guidelines if it does get collected and sent somewhere else. So that's the only one that I think we're kind of hoping to do the best we could on that one, and it seems to be that's the best that we can propose.
Okay, so just to clarify, Rich, and thank you for that. It looks like you've kind of picked off all the issues that were brought up. On the 50-foot, so I heard you say that if there's storage on the left or right, it would be on the 50-foot?
Be outside the 50s.
Okay, because I think that's the condition we're looking for, is that
Right.
correct?
So I think what would be helpful is if you can just add a note to the plan that says no snow storage in this area, and then just arrow out to the 50.
Sure, so most of it's gonna be in that 25 to 50 foot zone on the top left there, with the bioretention area over behind space 17.
So if this is,
So I was over there today, and
Yes.
and it's all pushed towards the wetlands, right?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so you're proposing now along the.
Well,
north-
it's still gonna be along the edge of, along that, within the buffer area between the resource area and pavement, yes, it's good, but it can be pushed more to the left.
Right, so it'll be outside the 50.
No,
Oh,
oh,
no,
Oh, I
it's
thought-
gonna be within, what I said was, it's, since 1950, it's a pre-existing condition or a structure per your regulations that's exempt from your policies. What we're trying to do is work the best we can. And the guidelines that were referred to by staff says that the first step is to not put it in the wetlands and to allow it to be on either pavement or vegetated surfaces to allow the snow to melt into the ground and provide recharge.
with the goal of having at least 50 feet.
Well, that's when you read the guidance, that's when it's disposed of and collected off-site by a company or by the town when they clear parking lots, et cetera. So that,
But that's, I mean, the guidance is to have it be 50 feet away from the wetlands.
when you can,
When you can.
and when
exactly.
it's, so we're not a company or a business that is removing and collecting snow and depositing somewhere. We're simply a tenant and a landowner that's pushing the snow off to the edges and allowing it to recharge on the site without disturbing the resource area being the wetlands.
well, so in this case, just seeing the 50 foot and how it moves higher to the right-hand side and lower to the left-hand
Right.
side towards the river. Obviously, you wouldn't be putting it towards the end because that's where your circulation is.
Right,
the
so
cars.
it's,
I would assume it would go towards the left side.
right, so we're gonna try to invite it more up to the left, right?
And so in essence, it automatically, seems like it'd be beyond the 50.
Right,
I'm just,
because the 50
it
is-
doesn't seem like it's a significant hardship. That's all I'm,
Well,
driving
it's, well,
because it doesn't seem like you'd really want to put it
that's
to
the
your
50,
point about the circulation, right? So, I mean, there's the 50. So if it's
right,
towards the left-hand side, you're in essence out of the 50 unless you're blocking the circulation pattern. That's, I'm just trying to-
Could I see that parking area? Could you move that in a way so we can see it more clearly? Yeah, that-
I see the right,
The right one, yeah, the right one. And so I'm trying to picture where, just frankly, where the snow, where are you gonna pile the snow? They come in, where's it gonna be? You'll get 17 and 16?
it's going to, well, if to adhere to the policy, it would have to be within 17 and 16 on that edge.
Yeah. That seems like it'd be okay.
So we
because
would,
you'd have to
you'd be dropping one
50
space,
For a few weeks.
so
Yeah.
week or day or.
Couple weeks.
we can't,
the other thing is that, you know, and I recognize that it's an existing condition and that this has been a historical practice that, you know, other projects that have come forward for redevelopment, the approach has been that, you know, it's a practice, snow storage is a practice that we don't want to see in the 50-foot no-build zone. So, you know, if there's an area that you can identify to have it outside, and then if that's not feasible, then it's removed offsite. I mean, that was the same approach that we took when Northbrook Terry was redeveloped.
Or to your point, I think, if you just simply say it won't be in the 50, you
Yeah.
don't have to identify an area,
So
so it
we-
won't be anywhere.
respectfully, I cannot promise that, or I don't think it goes with what the regulations say or what. So there's one option. So you comply with that, and then you go to invite a truck and a backhoe over there, backing up and removing things and trucking it offsite to somewhere. So you're increasing costs, number one. You're increasing trucks in there that don't need to be there. You have abutting properties that have different traffic with mother dropping off people up and down different days. And it's something that's not necessary because when you look at the spirit of the interest of what we're trying to achieve, by having the bioretention area, we have the berm in place and we have a robust landscaping plan. So we're basically insulating that left corner. Doesn't matter whether it's 5, 10, 15, or 50 feet off the edge of the wetlands, it's getting collected, it's getting stored on the property and it's recharging. So
Well, I think the other concern, you know, I mean, when we see, you know, and I understand, you know, it's a linear long lot and the intention, you know, for plow drivers, it's just to come in and push it all to the back. I mean, that's how it makes sense to do it. And I get that. But you're pushing all of that snow into, the recharge, the rain garden, the recharge strip, and all these areas that are not supposed to have any of these, snow storage or anything else in that area, because it compromises their functionality. And so I think that's another reason why we're saying, this is just not an area in the 50, that is appropriate for snow storage.
I mean, so you're saying that under your thought, if it's snowed 10 inches, you'd be pushing it all into that swale area and that trench area?
Yes, where it's been.
So you'd be
historically
pushing a
been
fair amount of
protecting-
sand and salt in that area too.
That's, I mean, that's
Well, there's
totally
really no
against the
sand.
recommendations.
Well, depending on
Well,
what you do
I
with
just
salt.
strongly disagree with the recommendations because it says whenever possible. But it says snow disposal, which means it's been collected from Walden Street, from Kai's Road, from this parking lot and brought to a designated site. That's posted on the website.
I mean, that's not how, that's not the
So-
spirit of DEP's.
Well, the spirit is what
definition or
the
guidance.
language of it is it's specific. So we're in compliance with our guidelines respectfully because we're providing the greatest setback that we possibly can and we're improving upon it. From
But it-
yesterday to today.
You say you're providing all of that great resource, but then you're gonna be ruining it by putting salt and sand and everything in it, so you're not providing it in the way that you're suggesting.
What we're doing, it's redevelopment, trying to work with the best you can.
You're supposed to be improving it too, right?
We are improving it. So we're
But then
increasing.
you're not improving it by your point, by pouring salt and sand into it.
So we're not pouring, it's, sand is hardly used, salt is, whether the salt is at 50 foot in a pile or 100 foot, it's going to melt on the pavement and get into the 25 foot, into the same trench. So it's not, it's, water flows downhill, and it's just like this table here, if I pick up this end, all the water is gonna flow down to one end. It's a
Well,
fact.
The guidelines or rules or whatever are there for a reason, and we just highlighted what.
Well, I respectfully read it twice, and I've read the guidelines, and we meet the guidelines.
It's not the, I mean, you might be interpreting DEP's guidance differently than how we are, but it's also.
I absolutely am.
Understood. But it's also the commission's 50-foot no-build policy applies to having snow storage in there. That's how it's, the commission has repeatedly interpreted that to include snow storage and
Yeah.
to not have that be within the 50.
Yeah, I think it was Milford Terry, also maybe that redevelopment of the bank over in West Concord,
Yeah,
right?
and Crosby's,
Yeah.
and I mean, it's
Yeah.
just, you,
So the policy talks about new structures, and then, so I'm not, it's clear and historically with other projects that we've been in front of, it's, when we go to try to go closer, we can't, we have two separate things, we have either it's a house or a building or addition or expanding. The house, the building here is going straight up, there's no expansion of the footprint, 0 square feet extra. We're told to bring the entrance further away, and then we're providing recharge, so it's, if we could put it outside the 50 and it made sense, I would. I don't argue. I get approvals and we build things. We don't argue. But we respectively look for the facts to speak for themselves. And right now, with the berm and everything that's evolved over time, we're providing an adequate location to provide recharge on our property and protect the resource area being the brook and the wetlands.
but with this
Yeah.
plan, when this goes, when it's after it's constructed, and then whoever is doing the plowing, there's no guidance for that person. There's nothing that says, do it here, keep it outside this area. There's no guidance.
Well, there is a contract, there's an operation maintenance plan that they'll follow and it can be looked at. And
That's not in the operations and maintenance plan, snow storage.
well, we can add that, but this is, we reply back in your comments saying the snow storage will be along the edges, which it is today, and it'll be at the end. And we've
And I think
improved
that
upon it.
the end is the real problem. I mean,
Yeah.
putting it over the retention area and, where you're redoing that, the stone trench, I mean, that's why it's so compromised now, because it's just always been, everything gets pushed down into that area and it doesn't do it any good.
And well, we also see firsthand sometimes when a plow comes in and pushes snow, sometimes they you know, depending where the blade's at,
Yeah,
they're
there's
picking up
more
a
than
lot of gravel and a lot of stuff gets pushed further back in. It's just the nature of the beast. It's not anything about the project. It's snowplow.
Right.
Sometimes that happens. At least it happens on my property, so.
Right.
So that's a
Well,
concern.
I think
too.
that's, so respectfully, to the extent that we can remove it, we will, but we need to.
I don't think
respect
we're
existing-
looking for removal at all. We're just looking for, you know, trying to
That's what
restrict.
other, that's what other.
Well, if they wanted to push it, you know,
Right.
keep it outside the 50.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
In terms of,
It's not possible,
Why not?
because we lose too many spaces, and we don't comply with zoning.
How many spaces would you lose?
Yeah.
2?
We would lose,
16 and 17?
we would lose the circulation and we lose.
well, I don't know. how
Why,
you
no,
would-
show me, which
If,
one would you lose?
if
16
you
and
push,
17?
if you push the snow over to where it says property in 17, it depending on and given our snowstorm history, at least the recent, I mean, I'm not sure how many parking spaces you would really lose. And the question is, if it's a big snow event, are 18 people or 20 people coming to park that day? Oftentimes, a lot of people don't come in on those days and following days, depending on the weather, et cetera. So,
I mean, I agree, to the extent that we can manage it and keep it off the edges, that happens today. However, but that left corner is an area of vegetation.
Well, actually, it doesn't happen today. If you go over there now, you'll see it's all pushed back towards the wetlands.
Right, but it's not in the wetlands, it's not in the it's on the brook. It's on the vegetation, which is
Right.
allowed. It's grandfathered. The spirit and the regulations speak for themselves. Your policies, your regulations, and your setbacks, we comply with everything. So I don't want to, we can't give that up. It's with
Right.
pavement, comes snow, comes rain. It's not like one thing or the other. You can have pavement, but you can't park a car on it because it's in the 50. I mean, it's all inclusive.
I don't think it's got anything to do with rain. Not talking about rain, just talking about snow storage and location, that's all.
So it's something we can't agree to. It's everything we've done possibly. We respectfully have built up and have a living barrier between the wetlands
Okay.
for that.
Well, if that's the position at this point, I'm not sure we can come to a conclusion at this moment in time. Maybe needs an offline discussion further and
Can you show me where the 50-foot?
Sure.
Marker is, like, you know?
maybe I'll just point to it if you don't
Yeah,
mind.
that would be helpful.
So there's the 50, starting in, so it'd be essence, starting right about here,
Yeah.
right? And then it kind of loops back. So it looks like it might, if you will, as an approximation, kind of,
It's
you
on the
know,
landscape.
kind of come back to here, some thereabouts.
And then what are the parking spaces that you were showing would be effective?
I think it's 17 perhaps.
Which one
It's,
is it?
17 on the left.
It's right on the landscaping plan. if
it's
you want to
there
show the rendering.
and there.
Those two parking.
This is 16, that's 17.
So if we push snow over to 16 and 17.
That's not an issue.
That's not an issue.
That's outside the 50.
And would that be an issue with zoning board of appeals for lack of parking spaces?
Sort of gray, and it's something that you would have to, talk about with them. But that has been something that, other developments have had that condition, within existing parking lots.
Right.
So,
I mean, Milford Terry's, they have 2 storage areas, I think, for their parking, right? If I'm not mistaken, right?
Yep.
And they,
and they lose spots.
sure, obviously, they have a big parking field and those, on a big
But
snow
they,
event.
but they
that's a good
also are
time.
seeking parking relief.
Right, at the same time.
So they didn't have an issue with that particular. one. Okay, I don't have a problem with pushing snow over and losing those parking spaces when there's snow.
Yeah, that would be the easiest solution.
Yeah, and I don't think it'd be
Rich is
difficult for.
Trying to accomplish because we do want to make sure that we keep as many parking.
Of
spaces
course,
as
Yeah, that makes-
possible, right?
absolutely.
It's going to the winter, if there's even that.
Right, and again, I mean, this winter, every winter is different, right? But this winter, maybe there'd be. I mean, maybe the most recent event, perhaps you lose a spot for, who knows, 2 or 3 days now. It's already
Right.
melting,
Exactly.
Right.
so.
So if you can make that note on the plan, just to say in the 50, or right, within the 0 to 50, just add a note that says no snow storage in this area, and then put arrows out. So that when it goes to the contractor who's going to be doing the plowing, or when somebody's going to take a look at it, we all are understanding where that snow storage area is. We don't want to tell you where to put it. I mean, that makes the most sense, to put it in 16, 17 space.
Yeah, you could pick any spot beyond the 50 at that point. We don't want to prescribe that, if you will. That's an operational issue.
Right.
And I think we'll have more parking anyway for,
I
Yeah.
think so too.
If it's neighbors, right, they usually coming and going anyway, right? They're not usually all sitting at their desk. It's a rare occasion, right? Because a lot of times they're in the fields, if you will.
So this is the rendering with Deb Howe, and so to stay back on track for tonight and close out everything next week with the Board of Appeals. There's a recommendation of positive support for relief and also to close out the order conditions at the next meeting. So that shows a 25-foot and a 50-foot buffer zone right there.
Yeah.
And so that partial, like that 16, 17 space, which is down on the left-hand side, if
Right.
that's, well,
Down there, yeah.
Yep, and you can also bleed into that little, just a little bit beyond 16 even,
Right.
beyond the 50, so.
Mhm.
And again, the only other, are we okay with that at this moment? Okay,
Yes.
okay, great, thank you. And I guess the only other issue, just a quick footnote, it just said something about erosion controls for those shown on the plan.
Yes, just to, around this swale to be reconstructed.
sure, we can
Says the word.
add that. The idea was to do it all one day, just so.
Oh, sure, yeah,
Wouldn't, in and out.
Right.
Yep.
We put silt fences up there, some people get lazy.
So
and-
fence, I think, just to, just to show
Absolutely.
model,
So
it would be fine.
that'll be installed at the time of, just, it'll be
yeah,
right before the beginning.
sure. Yeah, it won't take long,
It'll be, right.
okay.
Great.
Any other comments from Nick, Gary, any comments?
No, that would be great.
Okay, all right. Any comments from the public in regard to the application?
All right, let me just go there. I do not see any.
Is that her hand raised? Anna?
Anna?
No, that's my. hand.
Oh, you're.
Sorry.
Never mind, never mind.
Oh. Okay, so I think if we're good on those last two issues, I would think we'd have an order of conditions for April 5th, and again, I don't think you really have to attend the meeting at that point. Perfect. All right. Thank you. Good luck at the planning board.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on to the next application,
Thanks,
140.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice evening. 141 Comerford Road, DEP file 127-1535. And I believe this would be Paul.
Paul had to go out of town, so Nathaniel is here, and my name is John James. Good evening, commissioners. We've made the changes per the comments from the last meeting. If there's any questions, we're happy to answer them.
Okay, do you just want to touch on those briefly for the commission and any members of the public that are listening in?
Nathaniel?
Yep, so let's go through them in order. We changed the way the trees are displayed, so the ones that have already been taken out are just shown with an X. Those are the ones that have been removed already. We revised the tree protection detail to take off the trunk armoring, and kind of edited note 2 about if another tree needs to be removed, they have to ask NRC first. And then we're showing the 2 other trees that were not shown before, the 21-inch oak, 24-inch pine, they're on the plan. And then I know there was talk at the last meeting about the tailings from the well drilling. So we added note 4 just to put it officially on the plan that they're going to be deposited in the pool, which is drilled out from the bottom, so they can eventually percolate into the ground. And that is it.
Bill, you have a question?
Not right now, no.
Okay. All right, so I think, let's see. I think there's a notation here. I think the pheno marker detail, I think there's just a revision to what should be go on that. It should state annual mow only beyond this point. If that's, in terms of just the specific wording. And I think there was just I guess, an ongoing question about, on the mitigation plan, in regard to stabilizing that portion of the site. I think it reads that something to the effect of using on-site organic material at a 3/4 ratio to 1/4 ratio of clean, weed-free, leaf-free mulch. And I guess the only question that arose was, is there that type of on-site organic material to mix with the leaf mulch? I mean, is there enough stockpile there to accomplish that, if you will?
And I can address that.
Okay.
That determination was based on Art Allen's recommendation. We had to use some of the topsoil and fill over by the wall that was just completed. We had to bring that grade up a little bit higher than final grade. So there is adequate material over by the shed and the pool that will be used, and it has a substantial amount of organic in it. And he felt it was very comfortable to mix that with loam that we would be bringing in to create that organic top layer of the 4-inch depth.
So you're talking about the area where this area where the formerly approved driveway was, right? That's
No,
So where, it's not clear where you're getting that organic material from.
so if you take your cursor and go around the pool shed to the space from the pool to the wall or the border, that is where that material has been deposited. We had discussed that at prior meetings, that we would use that area for on-site storage. And then that will be what we will be using to create the finished grade in the top layer, along with the composted leaf mulch.
And is that here where where's, it doesn't even show where it is. I'm not really clear on where that's. You have an area here that this is temporary disturbance in this area to be regraded, but what about this area here from the back of the, and this is the area where the formerly proposed driveway was, which is sand right now. So that's the area we're trying to understand. We were trying to suggest at the last meeting that you bring in some loam and seed, and so that this could be properly stabilized.
Exactly. That's exactly what we're talking about. I'm sorry if there's any confusion on that.
It's not clear at all. There's no notes. There's no, I mean, we have one note that says you're gonna take some soil from somewhere on site and mix it with some leaf mulch and put it in the temporary disturbed area, but the only area of temporary disturbance that's noted on the plan is this area.
The
And this-
2,400 feet, yeah.
Right, and this is the area that we've been talking about for at least a meeting.
Well, that will ultimately be lawn and landscaped area as well. So it's all going to be, as we had done in the past, properly prepared. That is the reason we put the note on there to address the concerns of the commission. And we'll be responsible to make sure that it is vegetated here this spring and appropriate. And Art Allen will do his inspection. He's planning to do it sometime in the late May, June timeframe.
So that, again, that note that's on the plan, right, it says proposed temporary disturbance to be replanted, see note 8, which is 2,400 square feet. Shouldn't that get pulled up with additional square footage if that's just indicating that area will be covered by that same kind of treatment? So it kind of closes out the area that's just at this point sand and a white space on the paper.
Well, if I may, we will be responsible for getting to that finished grade and having it properly vegetated. What Delia and had seen is a temporary grading in order to get equipment into that back area. As soon as that occurs, and we're trying to get it done here before the spring rains, we're going to be regrading to a finished grade and seeding and vegetating that whole area. So it's always been part of the plan. Whatever notation you would like, let us know, and we'll be happy to put it on the plan.
Okay, So I think that's probably the extent of it, right? If no 8 suffices, if you will.
And some indication of where that applies on the plan.
Yeah, I think if that's the intent and if that note 8 currently at approximately 2,400 square feet, wants to extend, if you will, north on the plan, as we look at it. Then that, I think that would suffice. It's just a matter of just trying to pin down what is the end disposition of that area. That's all. I don't think it's a hard push here. That's all.
And
I think it's just
not-
extending the crosshatching for the temporary disturbance area so that it
Yeah,
covers
that's
the
all.
area of concern.
That's all.
And just to check, you're not asking to highlight on the plan where the loan is coming from. That was just pointed out so that we know.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that would be helpful just to understand that, you know, there, I mean, it probably doesn't matter. I mean, you can condition it just to say there's an existing stockpile, which actually I don't recollect seeing out there, but we can.
But upon inspection, you're gonna
Yeah.
see it,
Yeah,
and,
yeah,
you know, obviously, it'll,
Existing stockpile.
yeah, I mean, I think we have confidence that, you know, the owner and owner representative will do a good job, and et cetera, et cetera. So it's just a matter of just clarifying that, that's all, at the end of the day. And I think with that, unless I'm missing something, I think we should be in good shape. So it sounds like it's at the 1 yard line.
Exactly. Very
That's all.
close.
So I think with that and that final kind of commentary, or just the wording on the pheno markers, I think that should close out the discussion. Good with that.
And I believe we had the pheno markers marked for annual mow only. I'm
You don't say
confused.
Only, just you have to put only in there, that's all.
Oh, add the word only. Thank you.
Yeah, that's all. So if you're good with that, I think we should be, I think we probably, you know, again, you've got a week and a half, a week and a couple days to submit those little minor revisions, and I think with that, if staff is good with it, we can close an issue next meeting and don't have to attend.
Thank you.
Yeah, so before we go, if we have any public comment in regard to this, don't see any. Okay. Well, thank you, guys. Appreciate it, and glad to kind of get this to get it to the finish line finally.
All
Thank you,
right,
Commissioner.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thanks.
Good night.
Good night.
All right, let's see. So our next continuance is for 33 West Circle. That's a DEP file number 137-1632. And who we have this evening?
Let's see, Brian.
Oh, Brian, how are you?
Good evening, how are you?
Very good, thank you.
And I believe Elizabeth is, I don't see her.
Yes, she is.
Yep.
Yeah, there, okay, yep, so we're both there. Thanks for your time, once again this evening. I think we resolved the issues from the prior 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, hearing wherein I think the largest concern was the offset between the wetland flag 812, I believe it is, and the limit of work. At that time, we had scripted the addition to take the place of the deck with an 18 up to an 18-inch overhang, and that was additive or lesser of an offset than existing. So we've revised that to have it so that with a 6-inch overhang, it will still be within the confines of the pre-existing deck. So it'll be no closer. We also submitted a waiver request for the for work within the 25, although it's largely redundant or a little bit reductive. Actually, it's the beyond the 25 is where we omit the work, but we requested that. We did submit a late filing with the portable or the temporary storage building there that Delia had mentioned last time. That plan, I think we sent yesterday, just shows that as to be removed. Whereas, whoops, thank you. Oh, wrong image.
There we go.
So we have this, which can be noted if you want to use this as a plan of record, that this existing portable storage shed will be removed. We also supplemented that with.
We do, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I've got the wrong one, Brian. You did send. it
Okay,
back.
yeah, that's the one from a week and a half ago or so, yeah. I can bring it up too if it's not easily found.
Sure, go for it.
All right, all I have to do is figure out how to share the screen, all right? And let me make sure I have oh, there we go. Share
Got it?
screen and, oops. I'm thinking this is the right one. Do you see my cursor moving here?
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay, so that's because I had both plans open, so I couldn't really tell. Oops. And so this is slightly annotated with
Yep.
remove existing storage shelter to be removed, seed area below. Those are the only changes to that plan, the notations for that amendment.
Yep, and Brian, you did clarify that the roof overhang, whatever it may be, will be no further than the existing deck.
Yes,
Okay, very good, just for the record, that's all.
and you'll get an as-built plan verifying that with the request for COC.
Okay, very good. Any questions other than that for the? from the
no, I
commission?
think that's good.
Okay,
No,
Gary,
Everything-
Nick, you good?
Very good.
Okay. Any comment from the public?
It's like not the case.
No comments.
Okay, I think with that, we can close and we have an order
Yeah.
of conditions.
Sure, so I move that we close the hearing on DEP file 137-1632 at 33 West Circle in Concord. And that we issue the following order of conditions with findings A and B, with standard orders 1 through 20 and special conditions 21 through 51.
Second.
All right, I'll take the vote. Bill,
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Gary
Aye.
and Nick,
Aye.
and I am an I as well. Thank you, Brian. Good luck.
Thank
with
you
the
for your
project.
time and your attention to this. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Elizabeth, thank you. Thank you all.
Welcome.
Good luck with the project, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Night all.
All right, so new applications to be heard this evening. The first one is a RDA for 156 Upland Road, RDA file number 23-1. Who do we have here this evening? Hey, John. Hi, Kristen. Hey, come on up. How are you?
Good.
You anyway.
Somebody's being shared. Thank you.
All right, if you just want to just a brief overview of the project.
Okay.
would be great.
So what we're doing is our property has two garages, there's two driveways, one is on the upper level and the one on the lower level is a little shallow. So we want to bump it out roughly 4.5 feet. By 12 feet, and that's going over already, it's already was paved surfaces.
Yeah.
And it doesn't,
Is it a concrete pad or something? like
it's a
that?
concrete
Yeah,
pad,
yeah,
yeah, it's a concrete pad,
okay.
and it doesn't cross the 50-foot wetland.
Yeah.
Area.
Well, it looks
Pretty simple.
pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it really does.
Sorry for the rigmarole, but you know,
Just
it's,
to the lack of complexity.
yeah. We appreciate it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we do.
that's okay with us.
Okay.
Any further comments from the commission?
No.
Gary, Nick, you good? Okay.
Yeah,
Any
that's fine.
comments? Thank you. Any comments from the public regarding this application? All right. So. Hearing none, let's see, I don't think we have. I think we have we can close the hearing and then we can issue, right?
Actually, just issue a negative determination, starting hearing.
Okay,
Okay,
so Bill,
so I move that we issue a negative determination and number 2 for project, let's see, RDA 23-1 is the application. And that is for 156 Upland Road.
Okay.
all right, and the vote, Bill,
Aye.
Sarah,
Aye.
Gary,
Aye.
and Nick.
Aye.
And I am an I as well.
It's too easy.
Yeah. Record breaking. Good luck.
Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Take care. Thank you. All right, let's see, the final new application this evening is for 343 Commonwealth Ave, DEP file 137-1631. And he'll be discussing that this evening.
Hi, Kyle Cormier with Oxbow Associates.
Good evening, Kyle.
Hi, so the applicant is here as well, Anna Feldwig. I believe she's online, and Richard Catman, I believe he's in the audience. He did the plans for the project.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
So this is basically a landscaping project. The plan is to replace the concrete / pavement patio in the rear of the house with a paver patio. Plant native plantings, remove old railroad ties, which were steps at the rear of the existing patio. Remove an existing retaining wall, then also remove a shed that's within the 50-foot buffer zone. The site will see a reduction of impervious area overall, approximately 20 square feet. And we are proposing 9-inch fiber rules for to be placed downhill of the work area, in between the wetland and the shed. Tree protection measures are also going to be implemented. There's, I believe, 2 trees on site that will be protected that are close to the work area. There are 4 lights proposed within the 100-foot buffer zone. These lights are mushroom lights that are low wattage. And the only work that is proposed within the 50-foot buffer zone are placement of 4 pavers near the stone wall in the northern part of the site on the plan. If Richard has anything to add to,
Oh, there
This-
they are. Yeah, thank you. I can pick those up.
if Richard has anything to add for the overview, but other than that,
Would you like me to explain more about the plan, or do you have questions regarding the site plan?
Nothing too specific.
Okay.
Necessarily. I
Okay,
think it's pretty straightforward.
yeah,
Plan?
it's
Yeah.
pretty straightforward. I used all native materials
Great.
for planting, and we're trying to stay as far away as we can and protect everything.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you pulling the shed out of the 50. That's
Yes.
nice improvement.
Okay, good.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, definitely an improvement.
Yeah, yeah, looks like a nice project too.
Yeah,
It's a significant
very
improvement.
excited.
Yeah,
And I think it is as well.
yeah, looks very nice.
I have photos to share too, if the commission's interested of the
Sure.
existing conditions.
Do a quick look. Thank you.
Everyone see that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So this is facing towards the pond at the rear of the house. You can see the old railroad ties, the steps there, pretty overgrown. That's it's gonna be an improvement over existing conditions. And then you can see the shed on the left-hand side.
Any invasive just by chance? Nothing substantial.
So there are some invasives. You can see the
Oh, yeah.
the tree
That's off the
back here.
property, though, that's,
Oh, yeah.
That's
I'm curious
great.
really in terms of
Yeah.
that you're planting all of you.
yeah.
Yeah, so that,
Yeah.
yeah, that is on the neighboring property, but
They're
you know,
hoping
there are,
to fall. It's terrible. It's loaded with grape.
Yeah, it looks like it's
Yeah.
taking over.
Yeah.
Great.
So this photo is facing back towards the house. You can see the shed and
Oh, we don't see that picture.
Yeah, it hasn't come up yet.
oh, sorry.
While you're hunting for photos, can I just ask a question about the lighting? I heard you say you're going to add 4 lights and low wattage, but can we request that they be wildlife friendly lights? I think, the amber color temperatures are better for wildlife.
Certainly. Good.
Gotcha.
Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is the facing back towards the house.
Your pen looks watching. I don't see. it.
Hard to
No.
say,
Okay,
yeah.
good.
Good.
That's gonna be great.
Yeah, would be nice improvement.
Good, thank you.
Yeah. All right. If the commission has no further questions, any public comment on this project? All right, seeing none.
Do we have in there about removing the waste?
Oh, right, we should mention that.
Is that
The
any
yard
question?
waste?
Oh, yes, yeah. I guess there's a pile of yard waste in the BBW. So we'd like to make sure that that is removed. and-
Oh, certainly.
And certainly
Yeah.
doesn't happen again.
Right,
in the future.
right. I think that was probably on the property before.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Unfortunately.
Often typically the case.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll definitely get rid of it.
Thank you. All right, I think we have an order of conditions
Yeah.
prepared.
So I move that we close the hearing and issue an order of conditions for 343 Commonwealth Avenue, which is DP file 1371631, to include finding A, standard conditions 1 through 20, and special conditions 21 through 52.
Can you make that 53 and we'll put in the condition that the lighting will be.
Amber.
amber.
My friend, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
As
Special
amended.
conditions 21 through 53.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, second?
Aye.
Could I have a second?
Oh, second.
Thank you. And then I'll take your vote.
Okay, I vote aye too.
Thank you.
Same one.
Sarah,
Aye.
Gary,
Aye.
Nick? Got your hand. Thank you.
Aye.
All right, and I am an aye as well. Good luck with the project,
All
Anna.
right, thank you very much.
you.
Appreciate
Thank you. Richard, I believe, did you bring plans for Delia?
I did,
Karen was that?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Stamped and signed.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck with the project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so with that, I think we're moving on to an extension request. Regarding- Okay, so so an extension request regarding 116 Estbrook, DEP file 137-1390 for pond management.
Yes, so it's a second extension request. For Buttrick's Pond to continue aquatic nuisance species pond management. American lotus is the main species of concern. And we have received annual reporting as the commission requires. The reporting indicates that the active management for chemicals is only had to be done in 3 of the 6 years, and that hand harvesting has been successful in other years. So the request is to continue the following. So to continue herbicide and hand harvesting and algicides for any nuisance algal blooms that might occur. But Matt, correct me, I don't think you've used any algicides to date, right? Oh, I think you're frozen, Matt.
Got a good poker face.
Yeah.
Right?
Sorry,
There
I
you
think
go.
I lost you there for a second.
You're back.
No algicides to date, correct?
We haven't needed them to date, thankfully. Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so I think we need a motion for this, and Good vote.
Okay, so I make a motion that we extend the request for DEP file 137-1390 at 116 Estabrook Road,
And that's for a 3-year period?
3-year,
Okay,
3-year period.
Second.
thank you. And the vote, Bill,
Aye.
Sarah,
Aye.
Gary,
Aye.
Nick,
aye.
and I am an I as well. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Okay,
Aye.
you too. All right, we've got 2 COCs in front of us, Delia.
The first one is not ready to go. There some work that needs to be done on that to bring it into compliance. The second one is an old subdivision that the entire order of conditions was tied to this 8 lots. This one actually doesn't have any wetlands in the vicinity, but we're doing these. This should actually be a partial certificate of compliance.
For 154 as well.
76.
Oh, for
I'm
76,
sorry,
yeah.
154 is not moving.
Okay, sorry. So, and I think you do know partial.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't understand that. But it was
Ah.
apparently on the agenda.
Okay. So I think we need a motion for that. Sarah, you want to take that?
Yeah, I make motion that we grant a certificate of compliance for 76 Channing Road, DP file 137315. Sorry, this is a partial COC.
Bill?
I second.
And the vote.
Aye.
Thank you. Sarah,
Aye.
Gary,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
and I am an I as well. All right. Moving on to other business. We've got, I think, 3 items here.
We do, and they're all tree removals. 454 Garfield is 3 dead ash. Within the buffer zone, Will has been out and looked at them. They're all significantly declined. They're all dying ash trees.
Yeah, because of the.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing that a lot more and more. They will do the work with just a truck on the bucket truck on the road. We didn't feel like there was any need for replacement in that case.
Okay.
Old mats, they are removing 3 ash in the outer buffer zone.
Wow.
And yeah, they're replacing with 2 sycamore and 1 tulip tree. So outer buffer zone and outer riverfront area for those 3.
Yeah.
And the Lindsay Pond Association, 5 trees, and there were that was actually a variety of trees. And they will use a cherry picker. They will use a chipper. And I'm sorry, I should have mentioned that 454 Garfield's, they'll drop them and those will stay in place.
Okay.
And no need for the tree replacements at the the Lindsay Pond Association.
Okay. All right.
So with ash borer, it's okay to just drop them and leave them and there's no, I mean, what happens to the insects?
That's a great question. I mean, I think the problem when things are, in some ways, it's better maybe if
You
they
don't want
aren't
to
just
move
dropped,
around.
right?
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
that is a way
Yeah.
that they get
So I guess they just
transported.
die off if there's nothing to live on.
Jump onto another ash tree.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know the life
Yeah,
cycle.
just interested.
I know.
What do the ash borers attack initially? Is it the bark or is it I mean, what makes them leave an ash tree eventually after they killed it?
I will look into that.
I don't know.
Report that.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah. One of those mysteries, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did they used to die off more because of the cooler climate? Is that why we're seeing more of them, or is it just,
Why have they come in?
yeah,
It's not native. I forget where it's from. But they're just marking
Yeah.
it down. Yeah.
Yeah, what a shame.
it is.
Yep. All right. So I believe at this point, I think, so regarding 162 Plainfield, I think we're going to suggest we move into executive session, given that the owner at 162 Plainfield Road has, made it clear through their counsel that litigation may be necessary to clear title issues there.
Sure.
If an agreement can't be reached with the town, So I'd like to ask for a motion that we adjourn the open session and move to executive session and not return to the open meeting.
I make that motion.
Second,
Thank you, Sarah, and we'll take the vote. Bill,
Aye.
Sarah,
aye.
Gary,
Aye.
Nick,
aye.
and I am an I as well. And I think this evening we have Aaron with us, who represents the plaintiff in this case.
Can I just ask
Yeah.
a question? Mina,
Yes,
this is
please.
probably, hi Mina, probably a question for you. Can I stop recording on this just so it doesn't confuse the MMN when we send it up for posting to YouTube?
You can, and actually, if you're going to enter executive session for the purposes of litigation, Aaron shouldn't be in that executive session because the purposes of the
Oh.
conversation are to protect the town's litigating position
Right.
from the opposing party. So Aaron, I would just ask, I don't know if anybody else is here with Aaron, but
It doesn't appear to be.
doesn't appear to be. I think that's it. So
Yeah.
Aaron, I'm happy to I'm free all day tomorrow, so I'm happy to report back where we are. But if the purpose of executive session would be for a privileged conversation with us about the town's position.
Would the commission like me to provide information or presentation prior to that?
So I unfortunately, I didn't see you there beforehand. I would have paused before they went into executive session, because that really should be done in open session. You did provide the memo and the information I saw relayed today, and I can assure you, I can pass on what you've said to us. I apologize, because if I seen you, I would have suggested that process before going into executive session.
Okay. And you'll just follow up with me tomorrow? Okay,
Yes, and then if a further conversation in an open session is needed, that we can, between now and town meeting, we can make sure that happens.
okay. All right.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
Aaron.
Thank
That's
you.
okay. Thank you very
Okay.
much. It was an interesting
evening.
evening anyway.
Right.
Thank you.
Hey, why not? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and I think to Mina's point, I think we have enough information that's been provided in terms of the
Yeah.
issue at hand. Unless anybody feels differently.
I mean, I have a question for you.
Sure.
The firm.
Oh, wait, I have a question still
Okay.
on the recording. Can I stop recording?
Yeah, yes, you can. You should still preserve, you should still take minutes or
Yes,
notes
sure.
to create minutes, Delia, but you can stop recording.
Okay,
You all set?